Hi, this is Eddie Hearn and you're watching Lights Out.
This is Faisal Khan for Lights Out, proudly sponsored by Spartans Law. We're here at the Wembley Box Park Arena after the press conference. We're still putting in the hours. I'm delighted to be joined by the hustler himself, Dean White.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm all right, Dean. Dean, before we start the interview, I just have to start off by giving you my sincere condolences on the passing of your son. Really sorry to hear about that. Dean, how you coping?
Just here, slowly, man. We're just dealing with the realization, acceptance of, the passing, and just trying to be as strong and solid as possible. So what I do, I put a lot of effort into putting a lot of shows for my boys and just staying focused and grounded in doing that, you know what I mean, and continuing to build a brand which is Black Box Global and to have a solid year. I'm going to probably deal with this for the rest of my life, you know what I mean, but day by day, slowly, we're just trying to grow and embrace new life as it is, and then trying to project the image of him, what's left of me, soul, his spirit, and make sure I can leave a legacy for his name, just his name in general. So we're working towards that. We're doing, we're doing some good stuff. So I might even make a white collar league boxing for his name as well. So there's many things, foundation. So those are things. Sorry, but yeah, we're just here, man, and by God's grace, it's slowly, we're trying to build that solidness in that aspect. But yeah.
I noticed a few weeks after your son's death, you still carried on with your shows. The show went on, as they say. How difficult was that for you to sort of put that to one side and carry on with the Black Box Global Management?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't like a lot of guys. It's hard. When these guys pull shows, it's quite difficult. Getting your show pulled from under you. I'd think it's these guys that fight, sell tickets, train for a couple months to get on these. It's not a good thing. So I thought of my situation and I felt like I couldn't really do that to him. I'm sure most of these guys have put too much into it. To be honest, on the night, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really there. I tried my best I was kind of an emotional wreck, so I was just kind of at the back a little bit and then came out in patches, but it was just quite overwhelming, to be honest, dealing with it, you know what I mean? So I just kind of, sat at the back, but we managed to get the show done, great turnout, great fights, and the team pulled together and helped carry the show over the line, and it's always going to be like that for a little while, because it's kind of an emotional situation talking about the stuff, really. So we're just trying to build that strength, the inner strength back on that side. But yeah, it was a tough one, man, I feel like it's going to forever be tough. It's just embracing that toughness, understanding, the acknowledgement of where we are. That's it.
I respect you because you seem as if you're trying to carry on as normal, and I'm a father too. I know that's something no man or no parent should ever have to sort of experience, to bury their own child. But it's unfortunately because you get a lot of young children that are dying these days, whether it's due to knife crime or whether it's due to health issues. And you look at what's going on in the world in places like Syria and Turkey, you see so many young kids that are passing away. But what's your message to anyone that's going through what you've had to go through the last few months, or maybe are going to have to go through, because it is a common fact that young kids do die on a daily basis?
A family network of support from family is very important, and having faith. You got to understand things might happen for a reason, as much as maybe we don't want them to. But it's that inner self, and you know what? To mourn is what you got to do. You got to mourn. You got to cry. You got to let it out. You got to have your moments to kind of let things naturally take its course, because nothing's going to happen quickly. It's just a course and a process where you're going to have to go through, and I'm going through it, and I'm going to probably continue to go through it forever, to be honest. But I feel like these young kids, it's spiraled out of control, whatever it is. A lot of deaths, a lot of young kids dying, stabbing, shootings, whatever it is. And I don't know if we're going to be able to rein this back in, because everyone's got a gang, everyone's listening rap, everyone's trying to be a boss. There's so many things happening, and it's taking a toll on our kids. And this is where we are, and it's a shame, because there's a lot of people that's passed since, But I think family is going to be one of the key points in something like this. Having a good family who can support you, can be there, and just let you be you and let you mourn, let it out, and then you pass, and then you go on and you deal with it. It's a process. There's a big process that needs to be down and you slowly get to where you need to be.
Given with how the world is being run, I mean, you know, especially London, when there's so much crime in terms of knife and guns, what does the government need to do? Because this has been...
Past the government. There's nothing the government can do. We've gone too far with the government, you know, like, I think maybe if they didn't take away the funding for maybe these youth clubs and other stuff like that, that probably would have helped, because now everyone's just on the street, everyone's ripping their ends, everyone's carrying, you know what I mean? Even if you're saying more policing, then there's racial profiling, because not every guy that looks like he's got a knife's got a knife, you know what I mean? So, it's, you know, and not everyone that, you know, there was a guy that got stopped in the West End I saw online. He didn't look like he had a bloody gun. He looked just like a normal kind of hippie kid, and he had a gun. So, and they arrested him yesterday, I saw online. So you can never tell. The culture of the UK, London's cosmopolitanness, everyone is listening to the same music, dressing the same, everyone, you know, is not having it, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of difficult. I think if you look at America, we always follow trend and set and push behind America in terms of what they're doing. Rap music, they've got a big killing situation in America, and I think UK's always had it, but you know it's more highlighted now because we've got Instagram, TikTok, and everyone's more social media, so it's more exploited. We're able to push it, because early 90s and that, when I was growing up, 90s, 2000, there was the same thing, but it's now that we can push it more and put it on Facebook, Instagram, you know what I mean? So
I've just come back from the States. I was in New York for quite a while, I was in Texas for a while, and obviously you hear a lot of bad, negative stuff said about crime in the States, but I never saw anything, or I never experienced anything of that kind. But you mentioned about funding for youth clubs, but you also just spoken about how you want to do your own white collar boxing league. Is boxing perhaps maybe the best answer to sort of, I wouldn't say eliminate knife crime, but sort of improve it and sort of bring down the numbers in terms of deaths when it comes to knife crime and gang crime?
I think boxing's played a part throughout its years. People coming from deprived backgrounds, coming from a criminal background, coming into boxing, or had a checkered past. I'd use that, not criminal, because maybe the board might not be so happy, but people coming from checkered past, getting into boxing. It's always been a working class man's sport, you know, and you know, coming from there, you come in having a little fisticuffs, having a straight and a sorting out mano. Those were the old school rules, but now we've gone past that. There's no mano fighting fisty. That's not really occurring as much, you know what I mean? So I think it would help. Youth clubs and training club facility could be kickboxing, could be karate. In my days it was karate. Could be football. But we need more investment in the youth to take them off the street. Or even, to be honest, they put all this money in building prisons to keep people in. Maybe use that fucking money to give to these people. Maybe they wouldn't commit crimes if they had money. You know what I mean? There's countries out there that actually pay people, was it 100 grand a year? I can't remember what country it is. One of them countries that give.
Was it an Eastern European country?
They give their people money, and there's hardly any crime in that country. You know what I mean? People got money, they can pay their bills. There's many factors in this whole thing. So the government, we saw they writ their own checks when it came to COVID. They were doing the grants, the payback loans. They were writing checks and printing money. If they could afford to do that then, they could afford to do this now to stop this epidemic with the killing and all that. If people have nothing to believe in, so you got guys that are grooming young kids, selling them, you know, the country lines. We see that online a lot. Grooming young guys to go out there and saying they're part of a family and a home, maybe one parent family or whatever. So there's many factors how we can combat this, but those countries have worked with the funding element. I think if they've got all this money that they've put in to generate for that COVID shit, and now they turn around and tell us something different about, you know, COVID and all this other shit, you know, we need to be able to look in and put some money in and try and help these kids and say, well, look, we'll build other options and resources for you, and this is what you'll gain out of it. Because money is a big root of this, poverty and so on. So I don't know.
Once again, Dean, my sincere condolences to you and your family.
Cheers.
And listen, if there's anything out there we can do to help you promote what you're doing, you know, just say the word. But let's talk a bit about Black Box Management. This is going to be a very exciting year, because I've noticed all around boxing, you've got GBM Sports now. You've got so many small hall shows that are sort of branching out. You know, Carl Greaves is doing a few shows as well. What's the target this year for your project, Black Box Management?
Yeah, we're just going to continue to build and grow and elevate, man. It's all about elevation. We've got a few title fights. We've got a lot of them probably this year. We'll continue building, and that's the objective: get get the guys into ranking positions so we can get them out on maybe a Boxer or a Channel 5 or DAZN, I don't know. But that's the aim, to build the fighters, to get them to championship fighters, get them to title contention and develop athletes and their careers. And that's what we're doing at the minute. We've done a great job and we're going to continue to build and grow and continue to develop. And that's where we are after just over a year, and it's a good, happy place.
You've also got Derek Chisora who's turning into a promoter. So if Derek Chisora can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, no, Derek, but it's different with Derek. Derek's got that Saudi money. He's a head promoter in Saudi Arabia, so it's kind of a bit of a different situation. But look, I don't know. You know, he's done a great job. He's managed to stumble into a great position. Good luck to him.
Talk to us about your first show of 2023. Am I right? It's still going to be at the Telford Centre?
It's at the Tolford.
Sorry, the Telford Centre.
When I said Tolford, you made me say Tolworth. Sorry, you bloody got the wrong word.
I'm sorry, I go to so many shows, I can't keep up with it.
Tolworth. Sorry, even me, I pronounced it wrong. My apologies for the community of Tolworth. This guy messed it up. But yeah, that's my home of boxing. That's Black Box Global, home of boxing, Tolworth. Just like your famous York Hall that everyone likes to box at, ours is Tolworth. We set up a good thing, we've got a good relationship with him. And we've got a lot of local people. It's on the A3, so a lot of guys from Guildford, Epsom, Sutton, Surbiton, New Malden, it's all local. Ones are all neighbouring areas, which is quite close, so it's probably more suitable. But yeah, it's a great place, great atmosphere, great fights.
When I speak to a lot of people about small hall shows, they say they want to see different ideas, different types of fights, tournaments. Are you going to be looking into sort of ideas as in, like, I don't know, for example, the Boxer tournament, or perhaps maybe a tournament throughout the year? What are you going to be bringing differently this year, Dean?
Potentially, but ours is different anyway because, from a cultural standpoint, there's not many black promoters anyway in the game. So
You got a fan base there, Dean.
Oh, I heard something about I wouldn't say Dean. Is that what I said?
Something like that.
That's what I was thinking. I was wondering what was going on. But look, we're trying to build and show the youth that there is other ways to do stuff. Yet again, this is the angle for it. Young black managers, young white managers, depends whatever demographic you're from. If you're not given that opportunity to get in, so this is what we're doing and giving guys a platform. We put our money where our mouth is. The production is at the highest level you can. We bring. I don't know if you've ever seen, so maybe go and have a look at what we're doing. Our shows are a different kettle of fish. We've got great DJs, atmosphere. We've got the punch machine. We've got the 360 booth. We've got the jerk chicken, the food. Everything's just totally different. We're bringing the culture of London, the UK, to boxing, and it's totally different. The atmosphere is different, and it's people enjoy themselves from all races and ages as well. Because it's not just like a normal boxing show. Because sometimes when nothing's going on, there's nothing for you to do. At our show, it's always cracking. All the boys are at the back punching a punch machine, having a go. You got the 360 where a lot of women like to go on and take pictures, and older people. Then you got the food at the back. You're drinking and chilling and enjoying the curry mutton, the oxtail, the jerk chicken, rice and peas. So it's different, you know what I mean? And it's a happy place. A lot, like most people are, intrigued and pleasantly surprised with, how enjoying the 90s. And the fights are pretty good. We match them quite evenly, and we have good fights, and they're building, learning fights. You know what I mean?
I was there for your first show, I believe it was last year, and I had a really good time. As you said, there's always a lot going on. The jerk chicken and rice, the punch machine. You look quite dapper in that I believe is that blue tuxedo you was wearing. But obviously it was a big year for you last year. What did you learn about yourself, and what do you want to do slightly different in this year?
It's just learn that whatever you believe is possible, man. Believe in what you're doing, and there's never no ideal time to do anything, because I was thinking, this isn't ideal, that's not really that. Sometimes you've got to take that leap of faith and just believe in yourself and just get cracking. I built a tremendous team, production team. The people that work with me believing in me. The Black Box team as well on my side that make it possible. The matchmakers, none of it's possible without this whole team that believed in me and said, listen, you can do it, man. You don't need to wait for anybody. And they was right. And I play my part as the front man, but they also play their part as the people behind the scenes that are affording me the ability to get this show done and put on this amazing night.
Well, nonetheless, Dean, I've got to say many congratulations on your first year, and fingers crossed it's a second and successful year for you this year, and we look forward to keeping up with you and Black Box Management. Let's talk a bit about Boxer, the reason why we're here today. I've got to ask you your honest opinion, Adam Azim. There's so much hype surrounding this kid. He's been dubbed as the next Amir Khan. What have you made of young Adam Azim? And do you believe we are looking at the future of boxing right now?
Well, it's a big statement to say the future of boxing. He's definitely a talent. Chatting to him and his old man and the guys over there, and he's definitely got a bright future ahead of him. What people need to do is stop putting a lot of weight on these guys' shoulders, let them develop, let them grow. He's probably doing it to himself because he's getting rid of these guys so quickly as well. So it is a bit of a difficult situation. But like I was saying to someone earlier, in the division he's in, Shoko Stevenson, Devin Haney, Kambosos, Teofimo Lopez. You got Pitbull from America, bro. Devin Tank, Garcia. Bro, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. So we're talking about Welby. He needs to be beating these caliber of guys. Like, that's not a foregone conclusion. So when you start talking like that now, it's a precarious situation you find yourself. You're thinking, whoa, who does he actually beat out of this lot?
Well, when you look at who he's beating right now, Ryland Charlton, a good test. This guy that he's fighting, Santos Reyes, undefeated, 12-0. Do you believe Box and Sky Sports are doing the right thing with him?
I've got a kid I can find now. He's 8-0, 7 knockouts. That's, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Ben Shalom, if you're listening, there's an offer here from Dean White.
No, but listen, he's a great talent and he's not to be underestimated. But yeah, man, it is a difficult one. But I mean, look, I wish him well, and I think he has a bright future. They just not need to rush the guy. He needs to develop. He's only young, and time will tell. You know what I mean? What the future holds for him.
Well, it's definitely an exciting prospect to look forward to. But speaking of Sky Sports and Boxer, we saw what went down a few weeks ago in Manchester between Liam Smith and Chris Eubank Jr. I'm still in shock that it ended the way it did, because one thing I always thought is I'd never see Chris Eubank Jr. in that position. But this is boxing. Anything can happen. One punch can make a massive difference. But a lot of people are not focusing on that one punch that led to knockout. There's a lot of talks about the elbow leading up to it. I spoke to Spencer Oliver a little while ago, and he said that if you look at Mike Tyson's highlight reels, there was always the odd elbow landing when he was throwing combinations. What's your thoughts on this whole sort of elbow leading up to that knockdown right now, Dean?
Like I said earlier, a lot of guys, if you're in boxing, there's a lot of manipulation with arms, forearms, and stuff like that. If you're box, old school guys, a lot of the guys use their arm to prop you up. They'll use, their arms, forearm to lean on you and press you down. So for me, it's something that happens, and I like the concept of controlling people with forearms. And obviously, the ref would probably have his say on it, but I mean, is it an argument to say? But look, he followed up with other shots anyway. He got caught with a blinding uppercut, and then he got caught with a left hook. Was it after? So all the shots were there anyway. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the argument is. I hear his argument though, but I mean, I don't think anything's going to be done about it. But
how does the rematch pan out? Because we understand Chris Eubank Jr. has activated his rematch clause, and what I'm hearing is could be back in Manchester. It could go to Anfield, which is in Liam Smith's backyard. We're hoping that there's going to be a rematch because there's still some unanswered questions. How do you think the rematch ends? Do you think it's the same ending as the first one, or do you back Eubank Jr. to come back bigger and stronger in the second fight?
Look, I think Eubank didn't show his true potential in there. I think he's much better than what we saw. But credit to Liam Beefy Man Smith. He done an amazing job. He believed in himself when people thought, was doubting him, and he went in there and crushed and destroyed Eubank in emphatic fashion. So I think he can do better. I just feel that style with that hand low, that's not for everyone. You know what I mean? What's his name? What's the trainer's name again? My brain's slipping.
Although Eubank's.
Yeah, what's the trainer's name again?
Roy Jones.
So Roy Jones, in his prime, was good at that kind of stuff. As he got older, he got caught and he was dropped a few times. So that is not a style for an older. Eubank's like 33 now. It's not a style for him, 32. It's reactional. That guy was mean. I think if he gets his hands up, boxer's more orthodox. I think he does a little bit better. Keeps his hand up, doesn't sit on the ropes. When you're on the ropes, you need to hold tight and turn. Keep it simple. Don't do any of that fancy shit, because we saw what happened. You know what I mean?
Moving on, now it was announced the other day that Anthony Joshua's next fight is going to be against Jermaine Franklin, the guy who previously lost to your brother Dillian. I don't know what's going on with me today. But yeah, his last fight, we saw Jermaine lose against Dillian. Dillian spoke of his thoughts on the fight itself, and it was pretty clear to see he wasn't happy that he wasn't given the fight of Anthony Joshua. Leading up to that fight between Jermaine and your brother Dillian, Eddie stated on a number of occasions that if Jermaine does win this fight, he earns a lot of money and he also gets an opportunity to fight Anthony Joshua. But he didn't win the fight against Dillian, but he's still getting the fight with Anthony Joshua. Now, a lot of people thought that it'd be Dempsey McKean as Joshua's next opponent. A lot of people thought it'd be perhaps Dillian maybe as his next opponent, but it is Jermaine Franklin. Have you sensed any type of manipulation, or is this probably the right fight for Anthony Joshua right now?
I think all of this is wordplay because they said potential, possibility. They didn't say it was nailed on. So we must take it for what it is. Joshua needs to rebuild. And if he is to take a fight with Dillian Whyte later down, they want to see where he's at, see where his mind's at, see with him going to a new coach is going to benefit him, if it's going to work, and to see if he's the same Joshua of old. So I think it's a good fight, and it's a yardstick, a gauge for him to see where he's at if he wants to try and fight Dillian next after this. So then I think that's what it looks like. They might be doing, I don't know, so we'll have to see. But unfortunately, Dillian has to keep the Dillian Whyte business going and focus on his career and keeping him safe in good purring condition. So really he needs to keep active. Take care. He needs to keep active and wait out and see what happens. And I feel it's a good learning fight for Joshua to come back to, because everyone wants to see where Joshua's at, and if he can come back and get him out of there in better, emphatic fashion, as Dillian didn't do. Dillian had a hard fight with him, and obviously he had to dig deep to get the win. So now people want to gauge and see where Joshua is. Joshua could blow this guy out of there in 3 rounds, and then people will say, oh, he's back. That's a great fight for him. He might knock Dillian out, because so I think that's what they want to see. But styles make fights. I think Joshua's style is a more fluid English boxing, jab, double jab, right down the pipe. So it's different. So I think that Franklin might be easier than matched with him. So let's see what's going on, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, when we talk about Joshua's style, I mean, over the last few years, there's been a massive sort of question mark hanging over what type of boxer he is. Is he a puncher? Is he an all-out boxer? Is he a bit of both? Now, this move with Derek James, it could be seen as two things. It could be seen as a smart move, or it could be seen as a backwards move, because he's worked with Robert Garcia. Before Robert Garcia, throughout the whole of his career, it was Roman McCracken. Now, you've been around boxing a long time. You manage fighters. Do you think it's going to help Anthony Joshua with constantly changing trainers, or do you think Derek James could be the right man for him that brings the best out of Joshua as he goes on into the final stages of his career?
Do you know what? Derek James is my pal, so hopefully they gel well. He's trainer of the year with Errol Spence and Charlo, one of them Charlo brothers. So I mean, look, we'll just have to see what that brings. But it's down to the fighter if he is able to download the data, take on and process what's going on, and process that, and if he goes in the ring and delivers. So let's see what happens, you know what I mean? Hopefully it does him well and he's able to process the information that Derek gives him and processes it, and we'll sit on fight night. And some of these things take time, just like Dillian and Buddy McGirt, because when Dillian was boxing Franklin, he was boxing to orders. If you listen, Buddy was saying just use your jab to the head, jab body, and then sink the body shots in and break him down slowly. But obviously he was a bit more tougher than maybe they anticipated. But back to Joshua, I think it's the same thing. I mean, I think he needs time to blossom and find that confidence in his inner confidence in himself, and breaking away from the big team and just having a smaller team to focus and not listen to too much outside information, and just process on what he's doing. I think it might be a good move being away. So hopefully the changing of trainers is not always good, but let's see if this might be the last step, the last piece of the puzzle that's going to help him.
We saw Joe Joyce's next fight get announced with Weili Zhang, another 2 potential opponents that Dillian could have perhaps faced next. So the $1 million question is what is next for Dillian? We know Joshua's tied up with Franklin.
I couldn't tell you, my friend. I'm going to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you what Dillian's plans are.
Not what his plans are, but what's the best option right now? Because as I mentioned, Joshua's tied up with Franklin. We're hoping we get Fury Usyk. You got Joyce Zhang.
I think he's tried to get the Joyce fight already. There's not enough money there, so that fight's not going to happen. So I think Dillian's here to try and get big fights, big money fights. Yeah, big money fights and stuff. And I just seen some stuff over there. I just want to know what's going on. But yeah, Dillian's up to, he wants big money fights, so it has to be kind of a big draw. I don't think he's going to take any medium fight. The Joe Joyce fight doesn't seem doable at the moment because there's numbers to people, and I think they've exhausted that avenue, and it's not doable. I don't know who's next for Dillian. I don't know if he's going to take anyone else, but that fight, I heard that talk about Otto Ware. I don't think that's a great fight. Southpaw, 6'7", knows how to box. It's just all wrong.
We saw a video of Kell Brook unfortunately get released last week online via The Sun. We all know Kell Brook's had a few issues since leaving boxing. Now, I don't want to go too much into the video of what Kell Brook did, but do you think boxing is doing enough for fighters when they leave the sport?
No, we know they're not doing enough. Not at all, not in the slightest. But what can we do? I don't know if they put anything into place for people that retire, any form of I don't know what we're looking at, but there's absolutely nothing. They're just left to their own devices to battle depression, loneliness, and it's a lonely sport, as we all know. So,
given what Kell Brook done for British boxing, former world champion, some great wins on his career, do you not look at stuff like Sky Sports and Matchroom, where he was part of throughout the most of his career, and you not think perhaps maybe a place in punditry, or maybe a place in perhaps bringing the next generation up into boxing is where Kell should be right now? Because I mean, I personally feel that a lot of fighters these days, once they call it a day, I mean, they might feature on 2 or 3 shows throughout the rest of their life if they're lucky. Because I see a lot of great fighters just sort of disappear once they call it a day in boxing.
No, it's true. They go into the wayside, and it's yet again, that's down to the family networks and support that you have behind you also. But some of these guys have got to keep their focus, maybe travel. I don't know, but or maybe, like you say, if they can get into punditry jobs, that would help them, because that keeps them around the sport they grew up and loved. And it is difficult because they're just casted onto a raft out into the open and just left.
Okay, Dean, before I let you go, floor's all yours. Talk to us about the next show, when, where, time, dates, location, and what does 2023 hold for your project?
Yeah, so we're back this Saturday also, just like boxing. We're back Saturday, the 11th at the Tolworth. It's going to be a great night of boxing, great night of action. And then we're back again in Maidstone, the 12th, which is a Sunday Commonwealth title. That's Joanna Wuyu, and who's going to be fighting. And then we're back April the 15th in Tolworth. And we've got IBF International, I think, Commonwealth. We're trying to get something else. So we're working on multiple things, but the year is going to be stacked, it's going to be long, it's going to be big, and it's going to be great. So tune in, subscribe to the Black Box channel, subscribe to the Instagram Black Box Global and the Dean White, and follow the journey and the stuff we post. Thanks very much.
The Bionic Man, Dean White, a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time.
Bless.